friends, it's Christy. Welcome to day 5 of my 2018 holiday card series. Today I'm making a card using a bunch of Lawn Fawn stamp sets. I decided to do a whole collage of them. So I'm using images from Very Happy Holidays, Cheery Christmas, Toboggan Together, Winter Otter, Sealed with a Kiss, and Merry Messages for the sentiment in the center. So I inked up my images with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and it's on some Copic friendly cardstock. I missed a couple places while stamping, so good thing I was using the Misty. I just re-inked until I was happy with the results. And then once I was done with these images, I went and filled in some of the white spaces with a tiny round ornament. So this is going to be almost a one-layer card. It'll be just this panel plus the card base, so it'll be very easy to mail, but it's definitely going to be coloring heavy since that's where all my punch is coming from. So I'm starting with my polar bears, and I'm using W00, W1, and W3. I actually started with my mid-tone for this guy because I didn't want it to get too dark. So I started with that W1 and laid in some shadows, and then I blended that out with the W00, but I'm not going to color him in completely. I'm definitely going to leave some white space so that he doesn't get, too dingy looking. And then I'm going to come in with my W3 and just darken up those shadows in a few little places where I want there to be a lot more depth. So right around his scarf area and then in the crevices between his arms and legs, I'm just going to add a little bit more depth and then blend that out once again with the W1. Anytime you have this many images to color, you definitely want to do it efficiently and keep those markers out and color anything else that you want to be that shade with the combo that you have currently so that you're not wasting time pulling out markers. So any other areas that I want to be white, like the penguin's bellies, the little baby polar bear, those are all going to be colored at the same time. Now I'm going to move on to the outer area of my penguin's bodies, and for that I'm using W5, W7, and W9. This time I'm jumping right in with my darkest shade as I typically do, so I'm starting with that W9 and laying in my shadows. And I'm also going to color in anything else that I want to be black, so on this particular panel it's going to be the reindeer's hooves aside from the two little penguins. Then I'm coming in with the W7 and blending out that shadowed area, and I'll fill in all the rest that remains with the W5. For my seal, I'm going to switch to cool grays. I'm going to use C0, C1, C3, and C5. I'm starting with my C5, my darkest, and laying in the shadows on the underside of her body, so up on her fins and her little tail. And then I'm going to blend up with the C3. I want her to have kind of a gradual fade up her body, so then I'm going to come in with the C1 and color in the majority of the middle part and just save a little bit of room at the top for the C0. And then I'm also going to color in my squirrel with those tones, which is a real step outside the box for me. As anyone who watches my channel knows, red squirrels are one of my absolute favorite animals, so I typically always color my squirrels that way. But I thought this would have a nice balance with the seal on the top left and then the squirrel on the lower right, to have that balance of color across the card. So I decided to just use the cool grays. Now that my seal has had some time to dry, I'm going to go back in with my two darkest shades, the C3 and C5, and just add in a little bit of dot detail to the lower half of her body, and then I added 3 little dots to the top of her head. For the deer, I'll be using E50, E51, E53, and E55. I'm starting with the E55 on the tops of their heads and just adding some shadow. I'm kind of doing a little bit on the bridge of the nose and on the crown of the head, and then I'll do some to separate the neck from the body and a little bit on the backs of the legs as well. And then I'm going to blend out with the E53. For them, I wanted the color to fade as it got closer to their bellies, so it would have like a almost pale underbelly area. So I'm going to gradually soften up with that E51. I'm also going to use the E51 to color in the horns and do the shadow of the white area on the face. And then I'll blend everything else in with that E50. For the otter, I wanted it to be just a shade darker than the deer, so I took away the E50 and added in the E57. So I'm going to use the E57 for my darkest along the edges of his body. And I want, again, like the deer, to have the palest part be on the belly and face. So I'm going to kind of color in a circular motion, saving the highlight for the top of the head and the belly and the little feet that are kind of flipped up. In case you were wondering, the inspiration for this card came from some books that I used to read when I was very small. The Little Golden books. I know they're still around, and they're pretty awesome. But anyway, the back cover of these books always featured a lot of critters kind of ringed around the outside edge, and then the blurb would be in the center, and I just loved to look at all the critters on the back, and I thought that would be such a cute concept for a card. Alright, so far the card has been pretty neutral, so it's time to add some color, and we're going to add a lot of it. I'm starting with my oranges. I'm using YR04 and YR07 to color in the feet and beaks of the penguins, and also the little bird. I'm going to use BG10, BG11, and BG13 to color in the rest of the little bird's body. So I'm starting with the BG13 down on the lower right side and along her back, and then blending towards the front with the BG11 and then the BG10. And then while I have those markers out, I'm also going to color in one of my little Christmas ornaments. The next combo I'm using is RV21, RV23, and RV25. And I'm going to use that to color in the scarf of my polar bear. I thought that would add a nice bright pop of color since she's otherwise white. So I started with the RV25, and now I'm blending with the RV23, and then the RV21 will be my highlight. I'll color in one of my ornaments with that combination, and I'm always going to pick ornaments that are as far from where I first used them as possible, just to really spread the color throughout the card. So for the otter's scarf, I'm using greens. I'm using YG05, YG07, and YG09. And by the way, the color inspiration for this card all came from the Lawn Fawn Really Rainbow pattern paper pad, which I had planned to use, but my panel ended up being a little bit too big for any of it to show very much, so I decided to skip the pattern paper, but there was a lot of color by the time I finished this card, so don't worry. For the polar bear's ice skates, I'm using BV02 and BV04. It's a really small area, so just the two shades will do. And I'm also going to color in an ornament. So I started with the BV04 and then blended toward the outside edges with the BV02. To finish off my ornaments, I'm going to use Y11, Y13, and Y15 for one. The next one will be R22, R24, and R29. Then BG45 and BG49. My last combo is R20, R21, and R22. I'm going to color in my last ornament. I also colored in the dot over the I in the word smiles with the R22. And then I'm going to take the R20 and add some rosy cheeks to all of my critters. To add even more color to the card, I'm going to take a whole bunch of Lawn Fawn inks and stamp some snowflakes in various sizes that were from the different sets and just fill in even more of that white space. So the ink colors that I'm using are Lobster, Wild Rose, Plastic Flamingo, Carrot, Sunflower, Freshly Cut Grass, Merman, and Fresh Lavender. I did have multiple snowflakes on one small block, and I was trying to clean them off between each use. I did have a little mistake on the polar bear's face, so I decided to just go with it and overlap a couple snowflakes on the different critters. Before I go any further, I want to stamp the inside of my card, so I'm using that Fresh Lavender ink once again to stamp out Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, as well as a stack of gifts. And I did stamp that down several times until I got a good impression, since these were new images. I trimmed down that panel with the outside-in stitch rectangle stacks, and I'm going to adhere it to my card base with some Tombow Mono Multi Glue. That way I can get it lined up nice and straight with the edges of the cardstock showing through, make sure that it's perfect in the center, and press that down into place. To finish things off, I'm going to add just a few marshmallow sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. I'm using both the 4 and 6 millimeter size. I'm adding some Ranger Multimedia Matte where I think I want my sequins to go. I find this is the easiest way to adhere them. And then I'm going to grab my sequins with the Pick Me Up sticks, and then I can just set it down into the glue with the stick end that comes out of the back. I just added 5 since there was already quite a lot going on this card. I just wanted a little something extra. And then, because I can't seem to make a holiday card without any glitter, I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir sheer glitter pen to add just a little bit to the ornaments. I thought that would be a nice touch. It's really subtle, but it just gives it a little bit of something extra, draws attention to those images. And then I'm going to seal them into place with some glossy accents. You don't need to do this step, but it just adds a nice dome of shine to it that I thought would be perfect for the ornaments. And that is going to complete day 5 of my 2018 holiday card series. This one is definitely very different from any card I've ever created before, but I think it came out pretty cute. So I'm going to lift that up to the light so you can see the sparkle and shine and the glossy accents, and there's another peek at the inside as well. If you enjoyed today's card, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There's still lots of videos to come in this holiday card series and all throughout the year. If you want to keep watching, here's day 5 of the previous 2 years of holiday card series. I also have playlists of holiday card series dating back to 2013, so you can definitely check those out if you're interested. Thank you guys so much again for watching. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.